Hi, the Sci-Fi Recapped here. Today I am going to explain the American comedy horror film named Jennifer's Body. Spoilers ahead, watch out, and take care. Nerdy, reserved bookworm needy Lesnicki, and arrogant, conceited cheerleader Jennifer Check are best friends. Though they share little in common, they share even less in common when Jennifer mysteriously gains an appetite for human blood after a disastrous fire at a local bar. As Needy's male classmates are steadily killed in gruesome attacks, the young girl must uncover the truth behind her friend's transformation and find a way to stop the bloodthirsty rampage before it reaches her own boyfriend Chip. Can she put an end to this horror? The opening scene depicts Anita Needy Lesnicki, a violent inmate in a correctional facility. She is notorious for being a kicker and is now reflecting during the lockdown on past events. Needy is a nerdy, substantially unpopular, plain Jane type student from Devil's Kettle, Minnesota, who has been best friends with Jennifer Check, a beautiful, popular cheerleader, since their childhood. Needy's feelings toward Jennifer border on attraction. One evening, Jennifer has Needy accompany her to Melody Lane, a local bar, where an indie rock band named Low Shoulder is playing. It seems unlikely that they would bother to perform in such a small town, but frontman Nikolai Wolf explains that it is a service to their fans. As Jennifer is fetching them drinks, Needy overhears Nikolai referring to her as the State Fair Butter Queen. She loves to flirt and act promiscuously but is in truth a virgin. During the performance, the bar catches on fire. Nikolai gazes on with a smirk, and Needy leads Jennifer to safety through the toilet window, just barely escaping from being killed in the blaze. Outside, they are accosted by the band, who made it out okay. Jennifer is in shock and Nikolai offers to lead them to somewhere safe in his van. Jennifer agrees in spite of Needy's protests and leaves with the band. Needy watches as the remains of the bar collapses to the ground. Needy eventually makes it home where she finds a note from her divorced mother, stating that she is working the swing shift this evening. Needy calls her boyfriend Chip to tell him what happened and expresses her concern for Jennifer's safety. A bruised, bleeding Jennifer suddenly appears in Needy's home with torn clothing. Things get even stranger as Needy watches Jennifer tear wolfishly into a raw chicken in her fridge and monstrously roar at her, before spewing up a black, tar-like substance all over the floor. Jennifer further terrorizes Needy when she throws her against a wall and asks if she is scared of her. Jennifer then runs out the front door, leaving a bewildered and frightened Needy behind. The next day, the whole town mourns the tragedy of the bar fire, and Needy morosely remembers her childhood friend. Jennifer arrives at school acting as if nothing is wrong, and is completely unsympathetic to the victims of the fire. Jennifer meets up with the high school football captain, grieving the death of his best friend at the hands of the fire. She says his late friend suggested that they would have made a banging couple and leads him into the woods to ostensibly fulfill that request. As the two are kissing, her mouth transforms into a demonic gaping maw and she attacks him. Later that day, a highly concerned teacher at the school finds the captain's grisly remains, and the town is rocked by the additional tragedy. Low Shoulder's song Through the Trees becomes a smashing success, and they donate 3% of their earnings to the cause of the victims. Needy questions the paltry effort and wonders why they are credited with having rescued survivors, while she herself knows that is untrue. A month passes by and Jennifer begins to look a little pale and gaunt, enigmatically explaining that it is wearing off and that she needs sustenance. Jennifer catches the eye of the school nerd Colin Gray and asks him to meet her at her house, though later making rude remarks to Needy about Colin's femininity and taste in music. The next evening, Needy spends time with Chip, while Colin goes to meet Jennifer only to find that she has directed him to a still-in-construction house in a deserted neighborhood, where she is in an upstairs room lit by various candles. Jennifer suddenly transforms into a snake-eyed humanoid creature, kills Colin, and sups on his flesh, as Needy has a vision of Jennifer that causes her to panic as Chip makes love to her. Needy drives home from Chip's house only to encounter Jennifer walking like an animal across the road before jumping onto her car's windshield. Needy returns home only to find Jennifer sleeping in her bed and wearing one of Needy's shirts. They begin to passionately kiss until Needy snaps and demands to know what's happening. Needy orders Jennifer to leave, but Jennifer instead confesses what happened to her on the night the local bar burned down. In a flashback sequence, Low Shoulder drove Jennifer out into a forested area, gleefully intending to offer her as a satanic sacrifice in exchange for chart success. During the band's discussions, several wondered if Jennifer really was a virgin, which she insisted she was in the hopes that they would let her go. Using some instructions they downloaded off the internet, they spoke an incantation to the devil before stabbing her with a Bowie knife, which was then thrown into the notorious whirlpool off the nearby Devil's Kettle Falls. Back in the present, Jennifer further explains to Needy that she found herself still alive, and then wandered away from the site after they had left, which is when Jennifer stumbled back to Needy's place that night. Jennifer also confides to Needy that when she is fully replenished with human flesh, she is indestructible. She demonstrates this by stabbing herself in the arm with a pocket knife, which immediately heals. Jennifer also tells Needy that on that same night, she came across the Indian exchange student that had survived the fire walking along the road, and devoured him and hid his body in the woods. Needy threatens to call the police, but Jennifer tells Needy that she will just deny everything and that no one will ever believe such a story. With that, Jennifer jumps out of Needy's second-floor window and lands on the ground, completely uninjured, and runs off into the night. Now more worried than ever, Needy goes to the occult section of their school's library and begins to do research. Needy soon finds where the band went wrong, because Jennifer wasn't actually means a virgin. Their sacrifice backfired, though it indeed brought them prosperity. It also turned Jennifer into a succubus, a female demon with a constant need to feed on young men to keep herself in good health. Needy realizes that the spring formal is approaching and that Jennifer could very well turn the dance into a bloodbath. She informs Chip about this and warns him not to attend the formal, but he simply suggests that she get psychiatric help. She breaks up with him in order to protect him, and he decides to attend in lieu of her warnings. The spring formal finally arrives, attended by Low Shoulder, who are now incredibly popular and have sold out a national tour. As they take the stage, Needy does not see Chip anywhere, so she leaves in pursuit of him. In the meanwhile, Jennifer confronts Chip in the woods, telling him that Needy was having an affair with Colin and that was why she was so upset when the latter passed. Despite Chip affirming that he loves Needy, Jennifer kisses him ardently in an attempt to seduce him. She leads him to an abandoned mansion with a graffiti-filled indoor swimming pool. She kisses him again, but he rejects her yet again, causing her to throw him into the gunky water in a fit of rage. Needy rushes towards the mansion to find a demonic, animalistic Jennifer and an injured Chip, still in the pool and suffering extensive blood loss due to Jennifer already having bitten him. Needy dives into the water to help Chip and maces Jennifer, causing her to vomit more black fluid. As Needy and Chip crawl out of the dirty swimming pool, Jennifer levitates above them. Needy confronts Jennifer about how she was never a good friend to her, and Jennifer threatens to kill her. Chip uses the last of his energy to impale Jennifer through the stomach with a pool net's handle. Before she escapes through a nearby window, Needy tries to call for help using Chip's phone, but it is damaged from being in the water. He dies in her arms, but not before the two profess their mutual love. Needy wails as she mourns him. Needy, hell-bent on revenge, breaks into Jennifer's room, where she and her former best friend scuffle. Needy eventually yanks the best friend's forever locket from her former friend's neck and kills her by stabbing her through the heart with a box cutter. Jennifer's mother hears the noise and enters the bedroom to find Needy crouched over her daughter with the bloody knife. This results in Needy being taken to a mental institution. However, due to having been bitten by Jennifer during their fight, Needy has developed some demonic powers of her own, as well as Jennifer's evil personality. She has become vicious, ill-tempered, and antisocial with the orderlies and other residents. Isolated and abandoned by everyone she knows, she sets a plot in motion to escape. After a fight with an institution doctor, Needy is isolated in a cell. That night, she levitates herself to an overhead window, kicks it out with her superhuman strength, breaks through a nearby chain-link fence, and escapes into the night. As she wanders down a rural road, she finds a watery runoff, which is where the nearby Devil Falls empties out into, along with the knife that Low Shoulder used to stab Jennifer, which she picks up. She flags down a passing vehicle and tells the driver she's following a band. The man exclaims that they must be one hell of a group, to which she then grimly explains that tonight's gonna be their last show. The end credits show Low Shoulder checking into a hotel post-concert and candidly indulging in drugs and alcohol in their hotel room. Eventually, the band is savagely murdered by a blurred figure. We then see police crime scene photos of the band members' corpses strewn around the hotel room, Nikolai having been stabbed in the chest with the sacrificial knife. The final image of the movie shows security camera footage of an evil-looking Needy walking down the hotel hallway past a gathering of female band groupies.